What is up, guys? Welcome back in to another edition of Rover Sports, and we're going to talk about just yesterday. What a massively, just incredibly disappointing game from the Denver Broncos yesterday. They get housed like 39-9 to the Kansas City Chiefs. Drew Lock was not good yesterday. He had a pick six in the game. He looked erratic. It looked like every completion was difficult. Spagnuolo and Honey Badger, they did a tremendous job of getting to Drew Lock and getting to this Denver team. And the future of Denver, the future of Vic Fangio is really in jeopardy right now. I'll tell you, Vic Fangio, first of all, he loses games consistently that he should be winning. Like last year's Minnesota game was unacceptable to allow Kirk Cousins to come back. I'm trying to, Drew Lock in his career, he's only lost one game. And, he lost a game to Tennessee. He lost last year to Kansas City. He's lost twice to Kansas City, and that's the benchmark in this division. The guy can't stay healthy. Now, this is pretty much like his rookie year because he didn't even get to play last year, so you got to be patient with Drew Lock. But Pat Shurmur running a flea flicker with Melvin Gordon, and Melvin Gordon, one, he fumbles all the time. Two, he's a lot older. He's old. Three, he puts a lot of pressure on this offense to be good. And the outsiders will just, because they don't follow Denver, they will look at the weapons that the team has, like Cortland, who's no longer on the team this season or no longer available this year. They'll look at Jerry Jeudy, who was unbelievable at Alabama, but everybody was unbelievable at Alabama. And Jerry Jeudy, you have guys like CeeDee Lamb, guys like Justin Jefferson that are out really producing. He looks like he's all right in running routes, but he doesn't have that explosion to get to the second level. Now, maybe he's young as well, so I'm not saying Jerry's not going to be a really good NFL player. We got to give Jerry at least 3 years to decide, if he's going to get that big contract in that second season. But you had Melvin Gordon running a flea flicker, and he throws it over 6'3" Drew Lock's head. Gordon is just a terrible influence on this team. He just is. He's just losing in every regard with the team. He's fumbling the ball. He's taking carries away from the only good player on the team, which is Phillip Lindsay. And Phillip Lindsay's the heart and soul of this team. Phillip Lindsay is a Colorado guy from Colorado. He was an undrafted kid, and he is Denver. He was drafted by this Broncos team, and you have a guy in Melvin Gordon that's taking away carries from Gordon, and Gordon had a DUI this week. He got arrested this week. So when you compound all of that, when you compound everything that's going on with Melvin Gordon, that he's on the backside of his career, that he's probably going to be out of the league in like a year or two, that he's putting the ball on the ground, that he's turning the ball over every single time, that he's out not doing what he's supposed to be doing off the field, and he's the biggest hindrance to your team. I don't understand why Melvin Gordon is on this team. I don't understand as well why Pat Shurmur was the immediate hire when Scangarello and this team was doing pretty well last year. This defense, you're still starting Josie Jewell. This defense is getting really thin. The defense is playing hard, and you know what? The defense actually held Mahomes yesterday, but every other part of this team, you're going to lose a game when Drew Lock, and I like Drew Lock a lot, you're going to lose a game when Drew throws a pick six, when you fumble the ball, when you throw an interception, when you lose the turnover margin that badly, when you give up a kick return for a touchdown and a punt return for a and an interception return, when you spot Mahomes 14 points and it's snowing out there, you're done. You're dead. That's the point. But this team just quit in the second half. They had no explosive plays on the offensive side of the ball. It was a pitiful and embarrassing performance. They got their shit handed to them yesterday by the Kansas City Chiefs. After a week in which they beat the New England Patriots, when you're thinking that there's going to be a turn, that you're going to change your season around, old Vic Fangio, who's one of the oldest coaches in the NFL, who's never been a head coach before, he gets absolutely embarrassed in all three phases of his coaching and then the game because he coaches this team, and this team is not 40 points worse than Kansas City. It's not. Now, maybe some of you guys can argue, John Elway, that this team's not complete, but giving up a kick return for a touchdown, hiring Shermer, and Shermer going with a flea flicker. You know, you also have Noah Fant and Alberto on this team. I really think Noah Fant, I think he can get you a lot of value. He can get you a second-round pick. I think Alberto's a starting caliber tight end. You also have Jake Butt from Michigan on this team. You have enough weapons. You should start trading and getting some draft picks and building this thing. But I don't think Fangio. I'm really, unless Fangio drastically changes the complexion of this team, the Chargers might come in here and beat this Denver team next week. It's possible. The Chargers won by 10. The Chargers really suck as well. They were down to the Jaguars. They allowed the Jags to score 21 unanswered. They're a bad football team, and they're poorly coached in their own right with Anthony Lynn. They give up second-half leads all the time. It's up to Fangio and Drew Lock and these guys. I mean, I look at Joe Brady, and Joe Brady's brilliant. And, I got to give, my friend Jet Central a lot of credit on this. He and I have been talking about this, and publicly, I don't want to put words in my friend's mouth, but he and I are really talking about Joe Brady being a possibility because, and I kind of agree, because you look at Fangio when he's older, what's the upside in Vic Fangio? What has he done that's really made you think that he's the guy going forward? Is he going to be here for this kind of retinkering, this rebuilding of a roster? Because eventually it's going to be Drew's team. I'm confident that Drew Lock has the ability to play in this league. He's mobile. He's tall enough. He has enough arm strength. He has all the leadership qualities. He has the ability to play in this league and be pretty good in this league. He is a starting caliber quarterback in this league. And yes, he's going to have some bad football games, but he's also going to have really good games as well. But is Vic Fangio going to be the guy? I just don't see the upside in Vic Fangio at all. I don't really see the Shermer upside. If you go and get Joe Brady and he hires a good defensive coordinator, this team is eventually going to be able to compete with the Grudens of the world. Well, they beat the Raiders, so the Raiders aren't elite. But, this team is going to be able to compete with the Kansas Cities of the world eventually. And you can't just be losing by 40. And Drew Lock, here's the thing about Drew. I say that Drew's the guy. I've been a Drew Lock defender all the time, and I think Drew Lock's very, very good. But the guy is, Drew Lock is just, he worries you. He's not available. He gets hurt too much. He has these types of games, like against Kansas City both years, but he's actually played well in the totality of the games, but it's frustrating, seeing him get hurt both years. And the best trade is availability. So for Drew, he just needs to man down the spot. And against the Chargers, we're going to learn a lot about Denver. Either this team quits on Fangio and Herbert comes in and wins, which is very likely. Not very likely. It's like 52 to 48%. I'd be curious to see the line. I think Denver will be favored by about 3 points because they're home, maybe 2.5 before game time. There's a way that the Chargers come into Denver and beat the Broncos. It's going to be fascinating because the Chargers, they have their rookie quarterback and they have their coaching problems and they have injuries on the defensive side of the ball as well. And they look, their team on special teams is terrible too. They gave up a punt return. They gave up a blocked kick too. So these are two bad football teams, but who's more advanced? But you have Vic Fangio, and Vic Fangio is the type of coach you hire if you're very close to winning, if you have an elite level defense. And I know Von Miller is out. I know Cortland is out. But is the guy, Vic Fangio, going to be elite at coaching? Is he elite at getting every area of this team ready? Because the point is, you play Andy Reid, you play Steve Spagnuolo, you play the Hunt family, you play Kansas City. You're playing one of the greatest quarterbacks that we've seen in our league's history in your own division. It's a very difficult place to be. And then you got Derek Carr. Well, you got John Gruden and Derek Carr. You have the Vegas Raiders, and they're building pieces. I think they're building it kind of the right way. They've had some signature wins over the Saints. They were able this year also. They beat Carolina. They went on the road and actually beat the team that the Broncos just lost to. They beat Kansas City, the Raiders. Herbert looks like a pretty decent quarterback. Derwin James and Bosa and Ingram, they at least have a couple of foundational pieces. You look at the Broncos right now, ever since the Peyton Manning year, and John Elway, I mean, he tried to go with Paxton, tried to go with a lot of other guys that didn't necessarily work out. Hired Vance Joseph, which was a mistake. And then you went out and you think that you could just hire a guy that's been a defensive coordinator, his entire career, who's now an older coach. And is Vic Fangio going to win over this locker room? Because I don't know if I see it happening. I see guys kind of quitting out there on the field. So Joe Brady, you put Joe Brady with now, and you keep Noah Fant unless you wanted to trade him. But you have Albert O, you have Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton's going to be back next year. I think Locke is good enough. You have Phillip Lindsay, this offensive line. The one person, I think Mike Munchak has done a decent job. I really think he has. Especially with Garrett Bowles, especially with some of these guys. I think Elway's done an all right job. I don't think he's actually horrible. I think he cares. I think he drafts pretty good offensive players. Chubb is a good player as well. It's just frustrating to see this team with the injuries this year not get off to the start that they needed to. And in fairness, the schedule just is brutal. To start off the season, you had Tennessee, and Tennessee is actually very good. Then you went to Pittsburgh. So then you're 0-2. You're playing like the two best teams in the league. Just a brutal start for this for this Denver football team. Then Drew Lock ends up getting injured. Whatever games did the Broncos have on their schedule? Just yesterday, I had faith that the Broncos, after their win to Kansas City, I had faith that they would go out and play well. Oh, then they had the Bucs. So you know what? The schedule's just it's been a snowball of horribleness. You have Kansas City, Denver, Tennessee, and Pittsburgh on your schedule. So you have Von Miller go out. You have Cortland Sutton go out. So I'm just trying to piece this together here. Is this Fangio's fault? I don't like the upside of Vic Fangio. You've had your quarterback go down in Drew Lock. So I don't like making excuses, but those are damning facts about the season, is that the schedule of the opponents has been freaking ridiculous and brutal in every regard. It's been horrible, every single part of the schedule. And you even needed to go to beat Bill Belichick just to even still be in the race. So the way that the team lost to Kansas City yesterday with Locke and him playing very poorly, it was a bad Drew Lock game. But you know what, Denver fans, I think you got to be patient with the guy. Got to be patient with Locke. Now, are you going to be patient with Vic Fangio and Pat Shurmur? And Shurmur, I never thought he was that great of a coordinator. And you look at Joe Brady, and Brady is a brilliant head coach. He's going to be a brilliant coach. You look at Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore's pretty dang good as well. And the Broncos need consistent offensive output from the quarterback and from this team. That's what they've been missing for 4 or 5 years. And it's up to Locke in this offense to deliver. It is. It's time for Drew to play healthy. He's playing the Chargers and the Falcons in back-to-back weeks. It's time for Locke to play consistent football, put the Broncos in position to win. And listen, if you're Fangio, you want to keep this team on track. You look at the record right now of Denver, and the record I think is 2-4. You could get to 4-4. You could get to 4-4. You're going to learn a lot. Then you have the Raiders and the Dolphins. So we're going to learn a lot about Vic Fangio and this team. Yesterday was the lowest of lowest. Having the game over in the first half, pick six, disaster on a kickoff. The special teams was a disaster. We're going to learn if this team loves Vic Fangio or not. If not, they're going to find a way to play close with the Chargers, and they're going to play lousy against the Chargers. They're either going to crater or they're going to swim next week against the Chargers. Because Herbert and the Chargers, they just got their first win. They're probably going to be kind of excited to go to Denver and play. I know Herbert's going to be excited. Now, the Chargers defense is still a bad team. They're still bad, but they're at least going to be amped up for the game. It is not going to be easy to beat the Chargers. It is not. Especially with Justin Herbert, and especially this Denver team just got housed. So the morale at practice is not going to be very good because this team got freaking absolutely housed. It wasn't even a moral loss in any regard. It was an embarrassing loss where your mind could start to wander. How far away are the Denver Broncos? Is John Elway the guy? Is Fangio the guy? Your mind can wander to dark places because in the third quarter, there is no light places when you're down by 40 to your arch rival, to a team you have to see twice, to a team that you have to beat to win a division title. So it was just the special teams, the turnovers, the play calling with the flea flicker, every play call, not running the ball Phillip Lindsay consistently. It was just a flat-out pathetic performance yesterday from the Denver Broncos. And it leaves you just wondering. It leaves you wandering, leaves you all of those things. So this Chargers game is going to be absolutely a must-watch because you have to see about the future of your team. Are you going to quit on this year? Or are you going to find a way? I wouldn't pick the Chargers. And Denver's not a safe pick either. If I was a betting man next week, because this is going to be fascinating. You have Herbert. You have a young Chargers team that doesn't know how to win, but you have Herbert that can put up big points and big numbers. You have a Denver team that could just collapse to the Chargers. You have a Denver team that could play tight with the Chargers. I don't think that the Chargers are going to get blown out by Denver. I think it's more likely that Denver, again, just sucks and that Herbert actually has success against Denver. It is going to be a game that is must-watch. I'm so curious to see because it's a crossroads game. Either you're 2-5 and this season's over, or you man up and beat the Chargers and find a way, and then you get to go to Atlanta and again have a chance against a team that has talent on offense, but an Atlanta team that has just been absolutely just getting just brutally just can't seem to buy one. Man, it is going to be something to see.